Max, JJ was saying that he told you he's seen you play like this enough where, kind of he expects it, and therefore when you're playing like that, he doesn't want to take you off the court. Can you take us into that conversation and what you feel like he meant by it?
Yeah, I mean, I think he has a lot of belief in a lot of us, and I think he definitely has a lot of belief in me, and I can appreciate that coming from a head coach. I know, how I can play, and I think tonight was a very good example of that when I'm just kind of out there playing free, playing the way I know I can play, instead of just trying to overcomplicate things. So it was fun for sure. It felt really good to kind of have that kind of game, just stay in the course. Yeah.
One thing he mentioned, and outside of the box score stats, is the fronting that you were doing on Wembanyama, and we saw the one steal, but he said that in general took them out of a lot of what they wanted to do. What were you seeing on those possessions? How much had you talked about that in the game plan as being key?
Yeah, well, they were actually causing a lot of problems, honestly, just running that pick and roll with CP and Wemby, and they were getting a lot of lobs over the top. So we had to go to a bunch of reds and kind of just, we call it white in the post, just from the post. And for me, I was just trying to be as physical as I can. Obviously, he's really, really tall. He's got a lot of length. He's got a big wingspan. So for me, just trying to disrupt his rhythm, disrupt the inbounder pass, whoever's trying to get over the top, his rhythm too. I was able to get a steal off of it, and I think that kind of built some momentum for us to win the game.
Obviously gone against AD for a few years in practice now, but he's a whole another level of length. How do you account for that when you're on the court like that?
Well, it was part of our game plan. You kind of got to know where he's at all times, especially defensively, or offensively, I should say, where he's at on the defensive end. When we're driving to the basket, he's really, really good at kind of pulling in and kind of coming out of nowhere to block those shots. So we got to make sure we know where he's at. And I think we did a good job of that tonight, just kind of drawing him into the paint, getting those kickouts. And I think Coach and the whole coaching staff did a good job too, kind of trying to get him away from the basket so he can make plays at the rim too.
Offensively, it seems like there are a lot of quick decisions from you. Okay, open shoot, not drive. What were you thinking going into that?
Yeah, just being aggressive. To be honest, that's kind of what I'm out there to do, is start the blender. Just being aggressive when I have the ball, especially catching it in the corners where I'm usually at. Quick shot, quick drive middle, quick drive baseline. Just trying to make plays, either kickouts or scoring for myself. So just trying to be aggressive.
You just kind of touched on this a little bit, but I think it was at one point early in the second half, you've tried to dunk on guys a bunch in your career where you hit the paint and you look like you were ready to go up, and there came Wembanyama.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, what's that like when you see that?
It's just a whole nother thing you got to think about when you're in the game offensively. Yeah, like you said, I touched on it earlier, when you're driving to the paint and he's on the floor, he's somewhere. He's lurking somewhere, right? So I think he was honestly opposite slot or opposite wing. I drove baseline, and I look up, and I see obviously a tall figure around. So he sucked all the way into the paint, so kind of kicked it out. We got a swing through for AR. So it's just a whole other thing you got to think about offensively, and it was part of our game plan too, just knowing where he's at all times offensively, because we don't want to give him just free blocks.
The late in games, like basically throughout your Laker career, right? Like, I mean, you put the ball in LeBron's hands or AD's hands and kind of let those guys go to work. I mean, they're two of the best individual scorers ever to play. Tonight, when you guys needed buckets, like it came more off of actions and movement and stuff like that. As this team tries to build out what it wants to be, how valuable can something like that be that, like, your two best players trusted the system and then the system produced?
Yeah, I mean, for us, and we've harped on it, and I think this is kind of just universal in the NBA. When it's late game, tight game, you go to your hubs, and our hubs are Bron and AD. Those are our two hubs. But obviously they trust in us. We've worked on it a lot of in-game situations, and I think we got a lot of guys out there, outside of Bron and AD that can make plays too. And I think we executed really well down the stretch, and I think we really shared the ball. We got to first, second, third actions, kind of running the whole clock down and getting a layup, getting a shot. So I think for us as a team, us trusting each other and being able to execute down the stretch, even with Bron and AD, they get the ball. Obviously, we know they're going to score, but sometimes they bring two or three guys, and we got to make plays, and I think we did that.
Thanks, Max.
Thanks, guys.